Welcome to FRCMedia News for Thursday, May 27th, 2021. I'm Keith Tebow. Residents in the Corky Row neighborhood have concerns following the shooting that claimed 2 lives last week. The federal government has closed the Immigration and Customs Enforcement detention facility in Bristol County, and it's graduation season. We look back at some ceremonies and preview others. All that and more coming up. 2 men have been arrested and charged following last week's shooting near Griffin Park, resulting in 2 dead and another injured. 21-year-old Dana Mazik and 18-year-old Jeremy Holmes are being held without bail in the death of 14-year-old Miguel Sanjurjo and 29-year-old Jovan Antonio Mills. Another 19-year-old male is recovering from a gunshot wound to the leg. The city of Fall River sponsored a community meeting this week in the Corky Row neighborhood to hear from area residents. Police Chief Jeffrey Cardoza said gun violence has increased across Fall River, with 20 incidents being reported thus far this year. That's the same as all of 2020 and down from 15 shootings in 2019. The chief told neighbors that increased police patrols and the installation of cameras will be in place at hotspots across the city. The chief is also working on ways to treat all gun-related investigations with the same urgency.
One of the things that the mayor and I discussed doing when I became chief was treating shootings like homicides. Let's be quite frank, if somebody's shot in the leg, it might just be because the person doesn't know how to use a firearm or just happened to miss for whatever the circumstances are. So what we do is, if there's a shooting that comes in at 3 o'clock in the morning and the person was shot in the foot, a team of detectives will come out and respond and work that just like we work a homicide. They're just as dangerous as someone who took someone's life. There may be a factor or circumstances behind why that person did not die of a gunshot wound. So we're treating those like homicides, and I think that's an important thing. I've had some discussions with DA Quinn about it, and we commit resources to our non-fatal shootings as well.
Comments from residents in the neighborhood range from cleanliness to ensuring absentee landlords are held accountable for making sure their tenants are safe. One resident welcomed the addition of patrols within Corky Row, but cautioned officers to take an active role within the neighborhood.
I talked to a lot of officers, your office actually was spoken to you, more on foot. I think that women need, like in the cars, like I'm from the hood, like once your car leaves, we're gonna go right back, you know what I mean? You gotta be on foot, maybe like, I don't know, maybe not just like that, like more foot, more interacting with the community and something like that, because like all you're gonna do is, all right, so now they're complaining about their area, all right, so then now they're gonna move from another area, it's just gonna keep on bouncing. I know you guys can't clean up the streets, it's like impossible, there's gonna be bad and good everywhere. Because the ones in the cars, I don't know, last couple of days they've been like, they don't talk, like all the rest of the people that I talk to, like really friendly, but like the ones in the cars, they just sit in the car.
Others implored city leaders to play a supportive role in mentoring and sponsoring activities for local youth.
I'm talking about hope. I don't need to no degree to express how I feel, right? Hold on, paying attention to helping other people evolve. Now you talk about the city wants to evolve. We all want to evolve. We all want to get to a place of security. We all want to get to a place of success, and we all want to feel safe. We need people that's going to be able to care about the kids, care about the youth, because from 13 to 17, there's nowhere to go. And with social media, it ain't like when I came up, when they had that MySpace or just beepers, we were running off of beepers. But today, these kids are trying to feel as if they're known, and the music plays a role.
Bobby Bailey, the Minority Youth Coordinator at the Fall River Housing Authority and a member of the city's Diversity Committee, says more police and activities can only do so much.
I'm standing in the Corky Row area right now, and everyone's saying they need more beat police, more police walking, more police, but you know, these are kids. At what point do they turn into murderers or victims? So I think that's a question we need to ask ourselves, even when we're talking about creating programming and events and things of that nature. How do we solve the real issue, right? Development and making sure that these kids are in the right places, or if you see kids outside playing, you catch them, you know, at 10 years old instead of catching them at 18 or 24 when it's too late.
Mayor Paul Coogan committed to increasing spending on neighborhood activities and providing job opportunities for city's youth sometime this summer. The Southcoast and the country are reflecting on the progress made in race relations 1 year following the death of George Floyd. Rob Delalue, Director of Multicultural Affairs at Bristol Community College, says the past year has brought a greater awareness of the role race has played across the country.
When the event happened, it did spark something nationally. What you saw in the summer with many of the people going out and protesting and saying enough's enough, that we need to make some change. I think that was well done for the most part, with the exception of some of the other scenes that we saw during that. But I really when looking at it, I think the awareness was there. But now we're looking at what's the sustainability and how are we sustaining this awareness. I think people are a little bit more cautious of it. I think colleges and universities have been a little bit more open. I think police departments have been a little bit more open, but there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. So I think globally, I think there is that, spark and awareness. Some people were very naive to things that happen to people, as far as, where it comes to injustices or brutality or things. People didn't really believe that those things take place, and they got to see that in real time.
Delalue says progress on race will be successful only if we are committed to long-lasting change.
In order for us to continue this work and for you to do something, is you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable a little bit, and understanding that this is kind of you can't be too selfish. You got to be a little selfless, right? And got to look at how can we support one another. The first step is to really influence your own inner circle, regardless of how small or big you may think it is. That influencing you're at home, having conversations with your children. If you're a person, employee, and you have an opportunity at work to speak up, to do those type of things, because it's really going to help.
The state of Massachusetts is on track to fully reopen from the effects of COVID-19 this Saturday. We have an update now on the distribution of the COVID-19 vaccine here in Fall River. 38,639 residents, or 43%, have received at least one dose of the vaccine, with 35%, or 31,014 residents, now fully vaccinated in Fall River. An update on the vaccination numbers is expected later on Thursday. You can get the latest on our webpage, frmedia.org/COVID vaccine. There are still ample opportunities to get the COVID vaccine here in Fall River. The easiest way to do so is to visit the city's website, frvax.com, or by calling 833-8VAX-NOW or 833-882-9669. Local pharmacies, supermarkets, and other retail locations distributed the vaccine. That can be found on the state's vaccine website, vaxfinder.mass.gov. You can also call 211. In many instances, walk-in appointments are available. Secretary of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas last week shut down the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Detention Facility at the Bristol County House of Corrections in Dartmouth. 7 ICE detainees were housed at that facility and had been transferred. Since the operation opened in 2017, many have complained about the treatment of detainees by the Office of Bristol County Sheriff Tom Hodgson. Hodgson says the move by Mayorkas is purely political on behalf of state and federal officials protecting those in the country illegally.
I got a phone call about 8:30 in the morning as I was getting ready to head into work, and I was told, can you get on a three-way phone call? And when I got on the call, it was the regional director telling me that I got some bad news. We're going to shut down the ICE operation for Bristol. And I asked him why. He said, well, it's an operational decision. We don't really need as many detention beds. That's a lie. So no, we're not going to stand down and allow Attorney General of Massachusetts, Attorney General Maura Healey, to celebrate the idea that this building would be closed and more people that she's supposed to be also protecting are now getting exposed to danger, to drug overdoses for their families. She may not have the same commitment I do and the sheriffs across this nation do, but we are not turning our back on the people that elected us. And shame on her, shame on Secretary Mayorkas, and shame on President Biden for allowing this to go on. They all ought to be ashamed of themselves. And don't stand there and pretend that you're representing the interests of the people who elected you, because you're not.
Rafael Pizarro of the pro-immigration advocacy group Bristol County for Criminal Justice applauded the closure of the operation.
We agree with the federal judge, Judge Thomas, who opined that there's no reason why people should be held in federal prison for the civil violation of being in the country without documentation. So we didn't think they should be in there in the first place. That's our general belief. But then, you know, you have a particularly bad sheriff who's going to make them suffer even more than they need to. And we think the community of Bristol County is opposed to that kind of thing, and we certainly are. And so we took action.
Even though the dedicated ICE facility is closed, Sheriff Hodgson says he will still cooperate in identifying undocumented immigrants for deportation.
So I'm going to do everything I possibly can, and my staff as well, to identify anybody that comes in here that's illegal. And we're going to contact ICE and tell them they're there, which we have a right to do. And if ICE can get here and get them, God bless them. But they'll be waiting for them as soon as they get out of this, get released or bailed out or whatever happens. We're going to make sure that they can get here, because we owe it to the people in this county, in this state, in the nation, as I said, not to expose them to greater dangers than we otherwise would be doing if we allowed this to just sort of say it's okay to do what they're doing.
Mr. Pizarro believes the sheriff has no legal standing in enforcing the deportation of immigrants.
Dealing with undocumented people is a federal responsibility. He is a county official. And we are very much in support of county officials doing their county work. But in addition to spending so much time down at the southern border with his comrades down there, going to Washington, D.C. when Trump was in office to meet with his folks there, in addition to going away and doing that and having nothing to do with the job he does here, then he wants to chase down people who live in our community who are not documented. So we keep pointing out that this is just not his job, and we'd like for him to do his job.
Fall River saw a steep drop in unemployment in April, although its rate is still well above the state average. The city's jobless rate sits at 9.5%, down from 11% in March and 25% from a year ago, the first month when unemployment spiked due to the pandemic. Fall River remains higher than other gateway cities within the region. It's graduation season here on the South Coast. Bristol Community College held its 54th annual commencement exercises virtually last Saturday. Class valedictorian Catherine Haley told classmates the effects of the pandemic impacted everyone's academic schedule, but the class of 2021 persevered.
We all went home from campus one day, and many of us never had the chance to go back. Our interactions with professors, advisors, and classmates moved to an online forum that we all had to adjust to. This past year, we have witnessed horrors play out on our television. Some days were darker than we could have ever imagined. And yet, we got up and we went to class to discuss these matters. And yet we called those we loved most to try to make sense of the world we found ourselves in. And yet we pushed forward, knowing there were better days to be had just over the horizon. And yet we took care of ourselves, our loved ones, and our communities the best way we knew how. And yet we made it to this, our graduation. The resilience, fortitude, and strength each and every one of us has displayed is nothing short of miraculous. It is my sincere hope that each of you uses that strength wherever you may go after Bristol, whether that is onto another educational institution or into the workforce.
Bishop Connolly High School held their 52nd graduation ceremony last night. The event celebrated the class of 2021 at both Bishop Connolly and the recently closed Coyle and Cassidy High Schools. Class valedictorian David Abgrab told his fellow classmates to remember their time together and cherish the look ahead to whatever the future holds.
You all most likely see these friends sitting along with you today. All the parties and hangouts and FaceTime calls working on homework have formed friendships that will last a lifetime. If these friendships, frankly, can survive a pandemic, then they can survive anything. These friends will be the people to inspire us to accomplish the impossible. In the end, however, it's up to each and every one of us to make a difference. So as we sit here today and celebrate these last 4 years, let us look forward to the next 4 years of our lives. Most of all, class of 2021, remember, stay hungry, stay foolish.
The Durfee High School graduation will take place next Friday, June 4th at 7 p.m. Principal Matthew Damaris tells us this year's seniors are warriors and will fortunately experience a somewhat normal ceremony.
We're going to be able to allow graduates to have 4 guests instead of 2. We're going to be able to have folks outside without masks, which will be a really great change from last year, and that we'll see everyone's faces. But when you think about homecoming, when you think about the pep rally, that's a big piece of the senior year. When you think about the Friday night lights for football, when you think about all these things that didn't happen, they lost a lot. And for students that were working remotely since last March through this year, they haven't been in a school building since the tail end of their junior year. So it's been a very different experience. It's been a very difficult experience for a lot of our students to navigate the world remotely. I'm trying to get them to not focus on what they lost, but about what they survived, and that they are ready to take on anything in this world. The world threw a pandemic at them. They're still standing and graduating high school. And I think that this particular set of students, my daughter's in this graduating class, are ready to take on the world, and they're going to show us some great things in the years to come.
We'll have more FRC Media News right after this.
Here are some job descriptions on the latest hot jobs list from the Mass Hire Fall River Career Center. Bank Branch Manager. Santander Bank, located at 141 North Main Street, is in need of a full-time bank branch manager, responsible for the administration of sales, service, operational efficiency, risk applications, internal control, and HR management activities. Job number 149-46755. Medical Technologist, Southcoast Health Urgent Care, located at 450 William S. Canning Boulevard, is looking for a part-time medical technologist to perform diversified duties both within and in support of assigned laboratory sections. Job number 149-45056. Warehouse Shipping and Receiving Associate, Blount Fine Foods, located at 630 Current Road, is seeking a full-time warehouse shipping and receiving associate to perform all duties associated with shipping and receiving of product and inventory management. Job number 149-45874. McGoverns Family Restaurant, located at 310 Shove Street, is in need of the following full and part-time positions. Front of the house waitress, job number 149-31545. Banquet server, job number 149-31550. Back of the house prep cook, job number 149-31546. Bartender, job number 149-31545. For more information on these or other positions, visit Mass Hire JobQuest at jobquest.dcs.eol.mass.gov or call the Mass Hire Fall River Career Center at 508-730-5000.
Welcome back. The Samaritans has long been associated with providing a caring ear to those contemplating suicide. Its Fall River and New Bedford operations recently combined under the new umbrella of Samaritan Southcoast. Executive Director Darcy Lee says Samaritan Southcoast is committed to preventing suicides, bringing attention to its causes, and helping family members of suicide victims cope with their loss. This is done through its Suicide Emotional Support Hotline.
Our calls are answered by specially trained volunteers who are great listeners. So anything anyone would want to share, they will know will be met by a non-judgmental listener. Also, everything that they share on the line is confidential. So we're not sharing it with anyone else. We also are the local center for our region for both Bristol County and Norfolk County for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is open 24 hours a day. So during the hours in the middle of the night when we are closed, if you call that number and you are located in Bristol County or Norfolk County, you will get someone to answer the call. It will be answered by a backup center.
Support can be found by calling 866-508-HELP, that's 866-508-4357, or 800-273-TALK, 800-273-8255, or by visiting SamaritansSoco.org. Ms. Lee says this time of year tends to elicit the most activity.
If someone is sort of hunkered down in their home and not wanting to go out, of course, we all have been during COVID times, but that's okay in the winter because in general, we're all kind of staying in from the cold. In the springtime, when people who are suffering from depression, people will say to them, it's a beautiful day. Why don't you get out and enjoy the day? Well, some people just can't, right? Springtime also poses a lot of different sort of stressors for people, for students, both in high school and college. Some of them may be ending their school year or their high school career or their college career, and the future looks a little uncertain for them. That's where we also see an uptick in calls from young people who are students during the springtime. So springtime by far is probably the time that we see the most calls.
Ms. Lee says during the pandemic, the urgency of the calls received by volunteers differed from before COVID.
We receive about 14,000 calls per year that we answer. And what we have noticed is that the volume of calls has increased slightly. However, what's very interesting is that more and more people who are calling us at the outset of their calls, they are reporting that they are suicidal. We do call rescue for people if needed, if they're having a medical emergency or if they're suicidal as well. And what we found too is that our services are really working for people because by listening to people, it diffuses their emotions. And by the end of the call, they are no longer suicidal. So we're calling rescue fewer times than we have during pre-COVID times. And that's really important because there's so many reasons why this service works for people. And that's one of them. We're helping to keep people safe where they are. And they know that they are going to, when they call, receive a caring listening ear.
We'll be back with more right after this.
Hi, welcome to Hot Dogs and Cool Cats. Today we have Tucker. Tucker is a handsome, short-haired man over here, mostly black, a little bit of white. I would say white where it counts, like right on the tips of his toes. Tucker's only been here for a short amount of time, but in that time he proved to be a very sociable, often very playful young man. Likes to lounge around too, as you can say. I would say a typical young cat, though it's hard to describe why. He acts like he's just a little bit young, a little bit older than he is, like in his demeanor, until you get him playing, and then you can see that 1-year-old really come out. As far as activity levels in the home, normal, everyday comings and goings would be perfectly fine. Even a calmer house would be fine as long as he was getting enough one-on-one attention with people. He would do well with kids. Yeah, all around pretty even dude. So if you'd like to meet Tucker, you can come down to 300 Linwood Street in Fall River, Massachusetts, at Forever Paws Animal Shelter.
Today we have Peyton. Peyton is a new addition to the shelter. She was a surrender, no fault of her own. Unfortunately, for her owners, life just got in the way and they couldn't keep her anymore. So they did the right thing and they brought her to us. Peyton is about 5 years old. We think she might be a lab border collie mix. The more she has something to do, the more active she is, the happier she's going to be. So if you think Peyton might be a good fit for your family, go to foreverpaws.com, fill out an application, and once you're approved, we'll have you come down to 300 Linwood Street and meet Peyton.
The COVID-19 vaccine is here. The distribution of the vaccine is taking place in phases. Soon everyone will have the opportunity to get vaccinated.
According to the CDC, getting the vaccine helps lower the risk of contracting COVID-19, along with reducing the severity of the virus if you get sick.
It also protects your family and the community from infection.
After receiving the vaccine, we encourage you to continue to wear masks, wash your hands, and practice social distancing.
The vaccine is provided free of charge for all Massachusetts residents. Appointments are required.
Find out more about when you can receive the vaccine and schedule an appointment. Visit mass.gov/COVID vaccine or by calling 211.
Protect yourself and those around you.
Stay informed.
Secure your spot and get your shot.
Get your shot.
Get your shot.
Get your shot. Get your shot.
This Sunday, the city of Fall River will commemorate Memorial Day with a celebratory motorcade across the city. The motorcade will begin on Anawan Street, head toward Government Center, and then head south on South Main Street. The motorcade will take a left onto Globe Street and then a left onto Stafford Road, then a quick right onto Brayton Avenue. The motorcade will continue along Brayton Avenue and then on Eastern Avenue all the way to the President Avenue Rotary. Once on the Rotary, the motorcade will then take a right onto Ellsbury Street, past Derby High School and Bristol Community College, and then will take a left onto Valentine Street. At Highland Avenue, the motorcade will turn left onto Highland and then proceed to President Avenue. The motorcade will then take a right onto President Avenue and head all the way down to the Vietnam Memorial Wall at Bicentennial Park, where a brief ceremony will take place. And that's all for this edition of FRC Media News. Please check out our website, frmedia.org, for all the latest news and information. FRC Media News airs Thursdays at 6 p.m. and Fridays at 5:30 p.m. For all of us here at FRC Media News, have a great long weekend. We'll see you next week.